And so sometimes when we go with our gut feeling, it's like our own subconscious understanding of what's happening, of currents, of trends, or it's our sort of acuity to anticipate maybe what's coming because we're thinking about it or we're in tune with it, and then it becomes a conscious decision to sort of act, and we can still be completely wrong on our hunch, right? But then so could almost any amount of research. So that's the uncomfortable part, and the difficult part between sort of client and designer or client and ad creative or just creative people, and which is an interesting um, sort of at odds. I think that we're not really at odds. We just as people we have these distortions that the creative process is kind of this, and everybody's worried about offending a creative person, like we have super thin skin or whatever, and it's really it's about understandings that some people do kind of wear their job on their sleeves, or their emotions on their sleeves because they're passionate about what they do and because they're evaluated almost, or they take that personally. But really, I've never known anyone that's really good at advertising or that's really good at design that doesn't want to solve the problem, that doesn't want to solve the business problem, that would put their own needs ahead. It doesn't work for you that way. You won't be in business very long if you are that way.
Absolutely.
And yet, every business person that's a client wants to know your process. And what they shouldn't want to know is how the hell you do anything, so long as you do it differently than them. If your process was their process, you're not getting anywhere, and they're not getting anything. They're just getting something that might be rendered a little better than what they could do themselves, but that shouldn't be what their goal is. Their goal should be getting the most surprising, interesting, fun, and exceptional solution to answer the problem they put out. So it's just a tough thing because even as parents in America, we tend to be more worried about our kids' SAT scores, the logic, right? Not the emotional stuff. We're more worried about that than whether they can make an awesome relationship with someone else, which would be more meaningful in their lives. But that's just one of those things where we as a society, we like the logical, we want the process. We don't want the squishy emotional stuff. We don't trust that. And yet every value, everything that we base our logic on has an emotional foundation to it. So it's this, and this is a lot of stuff that when I mentioned earlier that David Brooks would be the guy I'd want to be in the car with. This is stuff that he writes and talks about. So, it's like, yeah, all of that stuff really makes sense to me. All of that stuff, kind of for me is that thing where, I'm looking for things that confirm my own bias. Well, he confirms a lot of it for me, which is why I think I could spend a whole day few days in a car with him.
That's funny. We we want to keep other people from confirming their biases to make sure that ours can be.
Yeah. But it's those weird little arguments or those weird little uncomfortable situations. The Republican Party uses liberal as a a slam against the Democratic Party, but our Constitution and our government is liberal. Period. And so even the most conservative people are working within a liberal organization. and yet it's being used as sort of a, negative. It's all interesting stuff. Listening is something that people need to do about politics for sure. The choice of words is very carefully selected. Masters at the choice of words.
Well, we spend so much time as humans finding a them.
Yeah.
And whoever the them is, back to confirmation bias, if they don't confirm what we believe, then they become a them versus us.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem to lead to a whole lot of solutions in the short term. Just
no, and therein is, again, if we were more open, if we were more willing to collaborate, and it's an interesting thing too, because so much can be learned and so much can be driven and moved forward through collaboration. But isn't our society sort of, I don't know, positioned to credit the individual, to give like so much, it's sort of like the quest for fame, that it feels like there's so much more quest for fame for the individual now than almost ever. And yet really teams could do so much more than an individual probably could, outside of being an Einstein or someone, tremendously advanced in so many ways. But there's so much positive that could be done if we actually rewarded collaboration more than we do sort of the individual.
I have a strong interest in improv comedy and had a good conversation with Gary Hirsch a little while back for this show about that collaborative process.
Yeah.
And it's interesting in classes and in that process with other people in an improv setting that some really want to be front and center star of the show, but the way that not only good humor but good story advances, it's because of the ensemble, that collaborative effort of making other people the hero rather than trying to get in the spotlight. And as soon as somebody does that, the ensemble breaks apart, and all of the humor and all the story, everything falls apart. But when the ensemble comes together,
yes,
the individual's forgotten, but the evening or the night or the experience is remembered for ages.
Right. It's gifting, right? You don't end the story. You gift the next person with an opportunity to expand it or create. There's a thing about that my wife taught me that I'm terrible at, which is very much in the same exact spirit that you're talking about that improv people use, and that is if you want to continue a conversation and if you want to continue to grow trust and to gain acceptance and to even maybe get your way in the end, it is to use the word "and" instead of "but."
Absolutely. Yes.
And that just the example of I hear what you're saying, but now you've made someone wrong.
Right. You stop things.
I hear what you're saying, and now you've not made someone wrong. You've actually said, I'm willing to have this conversation continue and get and grow and discover things with you. And it's just 3 letters versus another 3 letters as a connector or a cutoff. And it's amazing how powerful that is to think of as a concept. But improv people use that. Well, I mean, that's how they succeed, is ands, not buts, is gifts, not dead ends, is not going for the laugh themselves, but to hand it off.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the obstacles that you face on a daily basis, how they've changed through the years, maybe how your approach to them has changed through the years as well.
Obstacles?
What are they?
What are they?
Yeah, what are obstacles to you? You face none, I'm sure.
Yeah. Time usually is the obstacle, you know, not enough of it or poor use of it or, um, yeah, time is usually the hero and the enemy. um, Sometimes you don't want too much time because it gets you to focus and what is it? I like to procrastinate, but I keep putting it off. Um, Someday I'll get around to it. Yeah, I think time is almost always the issue, and it's if you keep track of your time like I do, because we basically do the timesheet thing, and because we're project based, although we work primarily off of fees that are established with the client. We still record our time so we can monitor how we actually perform against the fee and know how better and how we actually need to be more cognitive sometimes of how long it takes to do certain things and be realistic about it when we're establishing fees. And so since you charge by the hour, that's I've put catheters on everyone in the office, and so that they never have to leave their terminals. And that's not really true, but
No.
uh,
Employer of the year.
Yeah, we actually did do a little interesting, you know, photograph of a bucket down below someone's desk and a hose into it, as one of the, how we improve creative process at the office. There's also shower heads mounted over every workstation because you always come up with good ideas in the shower. So we've got one over everybody's desk.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I think time is really it. We're fortunate enough to have people call us with projects, and then it's just a matter of, geez, do we have enough people and enough time and enough energy and enough capacity and enough, willpower. um, but I think in terms of doing your best work and everything, sometimes it comes pretty fast, and sometimes it's just a matter of you know have to keep at it and keep working at it, and the sometimes the magic strikes, and sometimes it takes a grind to get it to happen. But um, having done so much work over such a long period of time now, I'm never really terribly worried about being creative enough. That's not usually the struggle. The struggle, because that muscle's been exercised so much, and there's a sort of professional approach to that. It's really just uh, time to do the work that pleases, for me personally, that pleases me enough. The client will buy stuff that I'm not necessarily happy with, so I can't present that. I have to present stuff I like.
Well, that brings up another idea. It seems that we know what we like, we believe in it, but frequently clients like what they like. Again, it may be just bias confirmation, but people get to like what they like. Mm-hmm. How, as a creative, do you deal with that, I guess, that chasm at times when you believe it's not the most effective work, but it's what they like for whatever reason, whether it's safe or it just makes them feel comfortable. How do you deal with that struggle or that divide?
Well, I guess it depends on just how willing you are to fight, or willing you are to sort of risk. I think it was Tom Walters or someone who worked at HR at Wieden and Kennedy, and I listened to him speak, and he's a consultant, and it was interesting. One time he said, client